How did you first get involved in beach hop?
Yeah, well, the very first one was actually called the Wangmata Rock and Roll Festival. The event went really well. There's about 4,500 people, which is the population of Wangmata. A festival like this now costs probably close to $500,000 to put on.
Yeah.
It's got to be funded somehow. Sponsors are huge part of that.
Well, I'd heard the stat that there's 1 million classic cars in New Zealand.
Andrew and I, we go to car shows in America, which are amazing. 13,000 cars at the Street Rod Nationals in Louisville.
Yeah.
Sure, but when we have Americans come over here, and they're blown away. They say this is the car capital of the world. Barry Meguiar from Meguiar's Car Polishers, Meguiar's Car Crazy TV, came here in 2015, and he said New Zealand is the car crazy capital of the world. And then on Route 66, this was the main street of America.
Yeah.
So it was the first paved highway from Chicago to LA, opened up in 1926, so it's the 100th anniversary this year. Seen the kids' movie called Cars, a Disney Pixar movie.
Only about 50 to 60 times, maybe more. That was the peak movie when
great
my kids
movie.
were young.
You'll see replicas of the vehicles, but say in Galena, Kansas, the actual original Toyota is there. Angel in Seligman, Arizona. And his story is amazing. He spent his whole life on Route 66. He's 99 years old this year. America's most famous barber. He sat there for when the interstate went in, which bypassed Seligman. He sat there for 9 years. He used to have 9,000 cars go past a day.
Yeah.
You're lucky if he got 90 cars go past.
Wow.
So he sat there and he's for 9 years, 10 years, and said, "We've got to do something about this." So he called a meeting at the Copper Cart Cafe, and they formed the Route 66 Preservation Society for Seligman, Arizona, and they petitioned to get it declared as a historic byway. I think we've got about 5 different tours across America now.
Yeah, so 5 different ones.
Different ones, yeah. And they're all self-drive tours. So we say, look, hey, we're going to suggest we're going to hit the road at 8:30 or 9 today.
Yep.
You can leave whenever you want to. But these are the things that you want to see along the way. Some things we do as a group, where we say, hey, we want to be at this place at 2 p.m. or 1 p.m. Because we've got a real treat for you, which might be a private car collection, or you might be meeting one of the characters of Route 66, one of the most well-known people. Then we get to the hotel, normally between 4 and 5 or 6, straight to the pool because it's summertime. We give everyone a little ice cooler chili bin as part of their tour pack, a couple of beers at the pool, and then we'll say, hey, we're going to meet in the lobby at 6:30. We're going to go and have Mexican or steak or Chinese or whatever for dinner. Join us if you want to.
Yeah.
Then we wake up and do it again the next day.
All right, welcome to a very special episode of Shed Life, our very first mobile trip. We're out of the studio. I've got an awesome guest today, Noddy Watts. We've known each other for a few years because we've been involved in building this fantastic shed that we're inside. Member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, ran beach hop for 25 years. We're going to be talking awesome car stories, USA tours, and all the fun of beach hop and the adventures behind it. But first off, welcome aboard.
Hey, good to be here. And welcome to our place and the very first Out of the Studio podcast.
Awesome. Let's just get right into it. How did you first get involved in beach hop? Like, how did that happen? Because it is just like an international phenomenon now.
Yeah, well, the very first one was actually called the Wangmata Rock and Roll Festival. And I'd actually had my second spinal surgery. And I was just recovering from that off work. And I was walking down the main street of Whangamata with a walking stick, and this well-known character in town, Richard Scully, who's a QSM, and he was heavily involved with the Surf Lifesaving Club here. And he says, I've got a job for you. Come with me. So I went into the local hairdressers where there was a meeting going on. And they were putting this new event together, which was a one-day celebration of the 50s and 60s. And they were going to close a block of the main street, Port Road here in Whangamata, for a day. And they wanted some cars to be brought in. And being a hot rodder, and with a bit of time on my hands, I was brought in the committee to organise that for the Wangmata Rock and Roll Festival. The origins of that meeting go back to the Coastal Rockers are our local rock and roll club. And each of the rock and roll clubs in New Zealand has a birthday celebration, a birthday hop. So for that weekend, clubs in the neighbouring area regions come for a dance in that town, and they have a big dance and a hop. But people were coming to town during the day and there was nothing to do, and they go to the dance at night. So some business people got together and said, hey, why don't we close the street and fill it with some music and some cars and bikes,
Yeah, cool.
And that's how the Wangmataa Rock and Roll Festival was born. And that's how I got bought into it. Now, a good friend of mine who was the president of the Matamata Modern Custom Club had an annual mystery run that weekend every year. So I got hold of Bill and I said, hey, where are you going to go next year? And he says, oh, we haven't made up our mind yet. And I said, well, how about you come over to Wangmataa?
Yeah.
We're going to close the main street, going to have some music and have a bit of a party. So he said, yep. So they came over here, and I think we had about 100 cars and 100 bikes the first year.
Damn. And so what year would that have been?
That was 2001.
2001.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then the event went really well. There's about 4,500 people, which is the population of Wangmataa.
Yeah.
And everything went off really well, and people had a great time. And seeing the car people and the rock and rollers all mixing together.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an event debrief, and everyone was really happy with how it all went. But I put my hand up and I said, hey, it was really successful.
Yeah.
We could grow this thing if we manage it.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing we want to do is change the name, because the Wangmataa Rock and Roll Festival is pretty boring.
Yeah.
It's a hop at the beach.
Mm-hmm.
A hop is a rock and roll dance at the beach. Let's call it the beach hop.
Yeah.
So the committee agreed to that. So I created the name.
Yeah.
We trademarked it, and the rest is history. It grew every year.
Yeah.
And doubled and doubled and doubled and doubled until the point where we said, that's enough.
Yeah. So do you have to cap it on numbers of each?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. The second year we had 300 cars and bikes, well, probably 100 bikes. Third year we had 600 cars. So when we get up to over the 1,000, we knew what we could manage in terms of car parking.
Yeah.
With road closures, the use of the reserves, how long the parades would take. We knew what we could manage. So it got up to 1,400 registered vehicles. We brought it back for a number of years to around 1,100.
Yeah.
Last year for our 25th anniversary, we bumped the numbers back up again because we knew what we could handle. So, but it sells out within. Well, the ultimate passes sell out in about 30 minutes, and same with the retro caravans. They sell out quickly, and normally within a few days the whole event sold out.
Yeah, awesome. So hop, hop is just like, is that a traditional Americana term for a dance, or like? Because I was under the impression that beach hop, it was because you were hopping around the beaches. So that's just what I thought the beach hop was.
No,
but
it's a bit of a play on words though. And as we'll talk about later on, we're actually doing a tour called the Beach Hopper, which we are going to hop from beach to beach. But no, it's a bit of a play on words because we do actually go to Pawanui Beach and to Waihi, and we've been to Taira or Whirianga. So we have had that element of it, but that's a bit of a play on words.
Yeah.
The actual origin of it became from the hop, which is a dance, a rock and roll dance. Now, I'm not too sure on the origins, whether that's American or English, to be honest, but it's a Kiwi thing anyway. So, you've heard the song, Let's Go to the Hop.
Yeah.
Oh, baby. So that was an American tune. So
awesome.
That's how the name came about.
Awesome. Well, let's give us a bit of the beginning. Where did you grow up, and how did you end up getting into hot rods? Because I know right in the background we've got this pretty sick cruiser bike that you built at high school, and then your first hot rod. So when did you first get that intoxicating smell of fumes in it?
Okay, well, I'll go right back. I was hatched in Tauranga at Tauranga Hospital, and spent the first 10 years of my life in Te Puke. And then the family moved to Thames when I was 10.
Yeah.
And even though I left there when I was 21, I still say I'm from Thames, because at that age, going through all the first in life, being a teenager and everything, where you really develop who you are and your lifelong friends. But I was probably like any, my era, being a boomer, any young kid where, I'd see motor racing on TV, and next thing I was dreaming I was going to be a Formula One driver.
Yeah.
The family went to the stock cars at Bay Park, and next thing I was going to be a stock car racer, and then went to the powerboat racing at Lake Taupo. I was going to be a powerboat racer. So just a typical kid. I mean, today they're probably looking at being Power Rangers or superheroes.
Yeah.
But in my day, it was motocross or something like you wanted to be aspiring to. And then it kind of all clicked when we were in Thames. My older brother took me to the drags at Mary.
Ooh, yeah.
And begrudgingly, I think he had to drag me along.
Yeah.
I was only about 10 or 12, and it was amazing. And from that moment, I was hooked on drag racing, and hot rods kind of followed on from that.
Yeah.
And then I think one of the comments in my school report was, if my real name is Graham,
Yeah.
if Graham has spent as much time reading books as he does drawing hot rods on his books,
Yeah.
he would do better at school. Not that I did bad at school, that's for sure. I did really well, but it was a passion that was always there. You know, one day I was going to be building a tea bucket. Then I wanted to build a 32 Ford Coupe. Then I wanted to build a Ford Popular.
Yeah.
And I drew a picture of the tea bucket here on my school books. And then when I left school and got my first paycheck, I ordered the chassis and it was underway.
Awesome.
But in between then, my poor push bike got chopped up.
Yeah.
I designed and built the custom extended forks for it, and just a typical thing, a banana seat and a sissy bar and ape hangers. I'm not too sure whether kids today know what they are.
No.
But they were things that you used to be able to buy back in the 70s and 80s to customise your push bikes. I became very, very good friends with a local car painter, Jenny and Les. And they took me under their wing, and they painted my bike a couple of times. And they ended up taking me away to car events. I came from a broken family, and they took me under their wing and kind of kept me on the right side of the tracks, I guess you'd say.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, it's always great if a mentor can sort of drop into your life. I have had a few over mine, and it's, so special.
I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for them.
Oh.
And I owe them a lot for that. But they also taught me how to be bad as well.
Yeah.
But a good bad, you know.
Yeah.
We got up to lots of mischief, so which suits in with Andrea because she's like that too.
Keeps it fun.
Absolutely.
And so, when did you pick up the name Noddy?
Oh, God, here we go.
Yeah, what?
I get asked that quite often. I kind of say that, it's because my mother was called Enid, and her surname was Blyton.
Oh, yeah.
But no, in reality, when I was young, again, I used to play rugby and athletics. I was pretty big in athletics, and I was actually quite short.
Mm-hmm.
Nickname was Shorty or Curly.
Yeah.
Up until I was about 10 or 11. And but my head used to nod to make me run faster. So
Yeah.
that's a story I tell anyway.
Yeah, I like it. It goes well. Then, and so Finished up at Thames High.
Yeah.
And then what did you do after Thames High?
Thames High was, I went to Monetary School in Thames, which was primary school.
Yeah.
I was a prefect, which is kind of funny because I was like this big and everyone else was that big.
Yeah.
But I was made a prefect and I won Most Promising Citizen, which
Nice.
was, looking back, I don't know how they recognised that back then when I was just a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And Thames High School was really, formative years.
Mm-hmm.
Lifelong friends were made. And I started work at Thames Hospital in the office there when I left school. Most of my friends all went off to university, but I wasn't ready to go to university at that stage. And so I thought I wanted to build a hot rod.
Yep.
So I got a job at the hospital, which was great, working in the office there. And and so I learned a lot working in an office full of women.
Mm-hmm.
And a hospital is very much a female kind of place, so you learn a lot about people and everything. And yeah.
What lessons did young Noddy pick up from that? Like, what did you learn there?
Well, they didn't have Married at First Sight back then.
Yeah.
But the office talk on Mondays and hearing them talk about their husbands and everything like that, so I kind of learnt a lot. I didn't really learn much love between my parents because they'd split up. So you learn to love from other people. So seeing how their relationships all worked and getting a clue, and from Jenny and Les as well, it really kind of helped me on the way. But no, they were a really good bunch of people. I injured my spine. I played rugby. I was in the second 15. I was captain of the second 15.
Nice.
But I injured my back, my spine, and developed a pretty serious spinal injury. And I was working at the time at the hospital, and I was walking down the corridor, and matron was walking towards me and she said, "What's wrong with your back?" And I said, "Oh, look at this." And I had curvature of the spine, which is scoliosis. And she said, "Oh my God, you come with me." And she took me into the ED, and the orthopedic surgeon saw me, and I was admitted straight to hospital. 6 months later, I had surgery at Middlemore under one of the top orthopedic surgeons in the country at the time, and basically saved me from losing my leg and everything. So it was pretty serious, but I didn't think it was.
Yeah.
So, but again, I was working at Thames Hospital at the time. The office ladies were knitting me jumpers and all sorts of things.
Lovely.
I was a star patient.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, man. Thank you to all the hospital workers. They're so great. I've had such good service from all the hospitals and all the healthcare workers. They're just such
They are amazing, aren't they?
heroes. Cool. So, working at the hospital, got the money, start building the hot rod. So, where did you pick up the skills of? How did you go about building your first hot rod?
Okay.
Because it's been on the front, you're showing it. It's on the cover of Hot Rod magazine.
1990, yeah. Well, we didn't have the internet back then.
No.
So you couldn't Google anything. So through magazines, I'd buy the New Zealand Hot Rod magazine and also Australian and American ones. But the little 1/24 scale monogram Revell model cars that you used to buy.
Yeah.
So I used to buy one of those, and you learn what a drop tube axle is, or a four-link, or a carburetor, or a tunnel ram, or a supercharger. You learned all that through doing those kit sets,
Right.
and
Excellent.
using glue instead of welding.
Yeah.
And built it through that. So, yeah, and also getting involved with people like I said, Jenny, Les, and Thames, and joining the Thames Hot Rod Club.
Yeah.
Get to learn to a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah. That's hot. So the Thames Hot Rod Club. So hot rodding must have been incredibly popular. So
There was over 100 clubs around the country back in the 70s and the 80s. This was pre what they call certification.
Yeah.
And basically you could build whatever you wanted. And
the dream.
most of them, most of them didn't fall apart. But, we're going to live by the rules that we have today. But, yeah, it was thriving back then. And, and every weekend there'd be an event on. All the clubs were really supportive, and there was some quite fun rivalries between the clubs. Yeah. Cool. And you kind of, you built that rapport with certain clubs that you seem to just really click and get on.
Yeah.
And same with other people, So, it was a really boom time and lots of fun. Yeah.
And is that still the case? Like in the States, they don't need certification over there, or?
Oh, heck no.
Yeah.
No. America, the land of the free.
Yeah.
And I'm not bagging certification because, there are some pretty scary things that were done.
Yeah.
And cars that were on the road. But and I think New Zealand today has world-class cars that are on the road.
Yeah.
A lot safer, but the freedom in America was, as long as you got a registration and the title, they call it, you just build it and drive it. And a cop has to have a reason to pull you up.
Yeah, cool.
Some states, I think about 2 or 3, do have an annual safety inspection, but it's very much just headlights and brakes and things like that, not like we have with the warrant fitness here.
Yeah.
So that freedom over there, it's so envious of that.
Yeah.
Boy, I'd build some wild cars over there if Andrew and I were living there. The sky's the limit.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think that in the world of just building, you don't want, freedom for sheds. That's what I'm after. It's just,
no building consents or permits or all that. Yeah,
that's it. Like, you still want a code and you still want it all done safe and engineered. But I feel like if you could have a bit more of if a New Zealand engineer will sign off on the design, you should be able to just go for it and build it rather than the. So you still want it done right.
But, sheds and cars are the same. I might decide, Andrea, when I first met her, had a 32 Ford Coupe. Yeah. Going back about 16 years ago. And, I'd love to build another one, but to go through the whole certification process, we wouldn't be reinventing the wheel. No. It's pretty much a template to build a car like that, where you get a new set of chassis rails and, it's got to have certain cross members that are being put on it. It's all common sense stuff, but each build is treated like it's the first time it's ever been done, which makes it a bit trickier, and it costs a little bit more when a lot of common sense does come into it.
100%. We're sitting inside, an example of that is every shed we do is very similar to it, you know, the design, but everyone is treated like it's a brand new, never done before process, which just adds a whole lot of cost and expense and time when you're like,
yeah,
it's the same, you know, it's the same design that's been done.
And that was, you know, as the customers of you guys, Andrew and I, you know, it was kind of laughable when the inspections are done. I mean, you guys do this for a living.
Yeah.
You're not going to jeopardize what you do. And you know, the reason why we chose you guys was because you built a good product.
Yeah.
But it was kind of laughable what the level of inspections that they go through. You're going, really?
Yeah.
Just let you guys get on with the job. You know what you're doing.
100% is a bit more of a choose a trustworthy company that's been around a while, you know, talk to the people and then, because that's it with the trade.
They haven't fallen down, have they?
No, that's it. If you never fallen down, never run away, it's it's the same with a mechanic, and you know, like any good trade.
Yes.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
How long have you been around? Who have you worked for? What have you done?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's fast forward it then a few. And so built the first hot rods in the 90s. So what else? Any highlights from the 90s in between being on the cover of Hot Rod magazine and then sort of 2001 and getting involved in the beat shop? What was going on in life there?
I kind of took a little, break. As I mentioned, I had the spinal surgery, which meant I couldn't work on the car.
Yeah.
And I think probably was that 84. So I'd been probably 3 years into it. Mm-hmm. And I needed a bit of a reset. So I actually went off on my big OE.
Oh, yeah.
I got to Sydney.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Going from Thames to Sydney was a real eye-opener. Mm-hmm. I had $20 in New Zealand, which I exchanged and got 13 Australian, and I landed with $13 Australian. I went to their CES, which is like their work and income. They said, bugger off Kiwi, you won't get a job. Yeah. 2 days later, I landed a job. Yeah. They said, when can you start? I said, start tomorrow. Gave me a week's pay in advance, and and really enjoyed a year in Sydney. I didn't really get much further. Yeah. I did 5 hours south and probably about 2 hours north of Sydney. And but while I was there, I went shopping for the car. Oh, yeah. So the McDonald brothers are in Victoria, and they build T-buckets. So I bought the radiator and radiator surround from them. The steering wheel in the car I got from Graham Cowan, who had a American Speed Shop, still there around today. So I bought lots of parts for the car over there and then shipped them back to when I moved back to New Zealand after that year. Mm-hmm. So I was ready to get back into the T-bucket again.
Nice. What was the Australian car scene like in the 80s comparative to the New Zealand car scene?
Very much the same.
Very similar.
Yeah, very, very popular. The club side wasn't, we have the New Zealand Hot Rod Association here. They have the Australian Street Rod Federation, so I don't think at the club level it was that same.
Yeah.
I think they had like individual membership as well, where you didn't actually have to belong to a club. But their rules were quite tough back then as well. Like they were ahead of us in terms of the certification type of thing, with what you could do to a modified vehicle. And it's interesting, the body styles, the Australian early Fords and Chevys and everything. I think New Zealand's got the best selection of cars in the world. Yeah. And if we look back, we had the American-bodied cars, where Australia had the Australian-bodied American cars. Yeah. So the 34 Coupe has got shorter doors and looks a little bit uglier than what the American ones. Yeah. So, and going through the 50s, we had the American badges on the cars, where the Australians had the Australian version of the badges on the cars. So, but also New Zealand had Australian cars, so your Holdens and your Falcons, etc., and your Valiants. But we also had the English cars. Yeah. So your Zephyrs and your Escorts and your Cortinas. Yeah. Now, they didn't have that in America. No. They didn't have that in Australia. So New Zealand, to me, is like, it was the utopia of car designs or available models that we had on the roads here through that whole period. So that's just one of my little...
Yeah, that is an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah,
you've literally got a worldwide selection of cars that are available in New Zealand, even I mean, they didn't have that in Japanese.
They didn't have that in England.
No.
They didn't have the Aussie cars in England, but we had them here. So we had them. We had the best of everything here. We had American cars made here, we had Australian cars made here, and we had English cars made here.
Yeah, awesome. What did you do for the job? I was just curious. When you got what job did you land straight away over in Aussie?
I went for a job working in the warehouse of a stationery company called WC Penfold. And they said, you're too qualified for that. I'm going, really? Really? They said, would you do this job, which is actually working in the office, doing the costing, the pricing?
Oh, nice.
I said, sure, I'll do anything. Yeah. So it was
Dropped $13 to my name.
Yeah, it was a desk job, basically working out, they'd buy something at this price, making sure that the quantity, everything was right, and then working with the buyer of that to say, well, what price were they going to sell it for?
Yeah.
And all their retail stores and everything like that. So when I came back to New Zealand, I went back to Thames, and I hadn't actually had a holiday. So I thought, I'm going to have the summer off. And my dad, he wasn't too happy about that. And I actually went on the dole, and he wasn't not happy. He says, you're out of here. No son of mine's on the dole. So I went up to Auckland, and I got a job at the Auckland Chief Post Office in downtown, because a mate of mine from Thames, from school, he was working up there. And walked straight in and got a job. And so I did. It was the New Zealand Post Office in those days.
Whereabouts is it? I wanted to say that's where Britomart is.
It is.
That is Britomart. So Britomart train station was the post office back in the day. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think back to. That.
Queen Elizabeth Square, and the Auckland Chief Postmaster was up there. So I started working there just as a desk job. They send you away down to the Post Office Training School in Trentham.
Right.
And you've got to go down there for, I think it was a month. And you had to pass, like clerical, you had exams you had to pass. So I went down there and
was this Trentham Army camp?
Yeah, it was next door. Yeah, and the CIT.
Yeah.
Central Institute of Technology, that was there. They were all in that same kind of campus area of Trentham and Heratonga and the Tocha Park Lodge pub, the Tote. But I actually went down and did there was probably 40 employees new to the post office in those days who were going through clerical stage 1. And then I did really, really well. I think I got 98 or 99% in the exams.
Nice.
So when I got back to Auckland, they said, you're too good for that job. So I got put into a job where I was the official newspaper reader for the post office. Okay. So every morning my inbox would have all the newspapers, the Auckland Herald, the New Zealand Herald and the Auckland Star and the Listener. And my job was to go through and read every article. And anything that had the word post office or stamps or mail or banking, I had to cut it out and fax it down to Wellington.
Okay.
Who would then decide if a reply need to be made. If it was a local one, then I'd work with the chief postmaster and write a reply, letter to the editor or whatever. And also in that role, so I was a paid newspaper reader. So I was very big on current affairs.
Yeah. And so were they looking for anybody that were saying negative things about the
Yeah, pretty much. And positive, though.
Yeah, and positive.
I mean, they can celebrate the good stuff and, react if there's some negative stuff in there. But also part of that role was events. So the National Under-18 Cricket Tournament, I think I helped organise that in Lord Ellesmere Park in Pakuranga, helped organise that.
As part of the post office?
Yeah, cool. They were a main sponsor of it. And also the youth orchestra in the town hall.
Excellent.
So I learned a little bit about event management from there.
Yeah, 100%. The costings over in Sydney, the event management, keeping up to date with everything. You can say...
Unknown what was ahead.
Yeah, I can see how the model citizen at Montetari School,
And then what happened then, in 87, the government went through this state-owned enterprise exercise with most government departments. So New Zealand Post was made it into, the New Zealand Post Office was split into 3.
Yeah.
So there was Telecom, before it was Spark. There was Postbank, and there was New Zealand Post. Now, as employees, we were given the option of which of the 3 we wanted to move into.
Oh, okay.
So it was a Friday, and the boss came into this is Auckland Chief Post Office and said, "Where are you going to go?" And my mate from Thames, who I was working with, we said, "We're going to take the afternoon off and go and have a beer down at the pub down the road and have a good chat about it, and we'll let you know Monday."
Yeah.
So he said, "Oh, fair enough."
Yeah.
So Fleeksy and I, we sat down there and we went through it, and we thought, well, Telecom was where all the technology was.
Yeah.
and that was a sexy new one. And we thought, wow, that's where everybody was going to go there.
Yeah.
But with the way of evolution of, telecommunications and computers and that, we probably wouldn't have a job for long.
Yeah.
Postbank, no, we weren't ready, didn't want to be bankers. And New Zealand Post, like the mail side of things, was the poor cousin.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's the way the staff were treated and all that. So we thought, why don't we go there?
Okay.
Because there'll be more opportunities.
Yeah.
So we decided, we'll go into New Zealand Post on the mail side. And that was one of the best decisions we made, because there was so much opportunity for improvement, because it was all very hands-on, lots of technology. So I was brought into what they call the management services team, and we looked at all the processes of how mail was moved, how it was processed and everything. I was fast-tracked into management grade. They sent me to Central Institute of Technology on block courses to become an industrial engineer for 3 years, paid for.
Really?
There was a group of us throughout New Zealand that went through that. I was one of the few that made it through all 3 years and become an industrial engineer, paid for by New Zealand Post. So we looked at all the way that, from the retail side of things of New Zealand Post through to the transport, to the containerisation, to how the business works from a process point of view. Computers, all that stuff, learned all that, which kind of brought me up through the management of New Zealand Post. Once I finished, after the 3 years of doing the training at the CIT, I had 1.5 staff under me. And I saw a job for the area manager of New Zealand Post for the Coromandel.
Oh, cool.
So at this stage I'd been away for 8 years in Auckland, and I thought, why don't I have a crack at that? It was the same management grade. So I had a crack for it, and I became the area manager for the Coromandel.
Nice.
Which is, I had 6 post offices: Thames, Coromandel, Tairua, Whitianga, Waihi and Pairo. Plus all the agencies in Ngatea and rural deliveries, about 200 staff, all up with contractors. And based myself in Whangamata. So that's when 1992 when I moved here. And was the area manager for New Zealand Post. And the Thames Post Office we took to being runner-up Post Shop of the Year through some pretty radical changes to the way that I did things, which the staff kind of embraced, given them the freedom to just get on and do your job,
Nice.
Introduced a lot of new technology. Then I was shoulder tapped to go back to corporate to do some project work. And so I was commuting from here to Auckland to Wellington. Then that became a firm appointment, so I had to give up being the retail manager, the area manager for New Zealand Post. And I pretty much became the national service quality manager for New Zealand Post, making sure the mail was delivered on time. Because, if you send a letter from Auckland to Wellington, fast post, it should be delivered the next day. If it was normal post, it should be 2 to 3 days. So we designed processes and systems on how to measure the mail to make sure it was being delivered on time and report it every day to the top brasses. Today we delivered 96% of the mail on time.
That's pretty cool to think about, because I was just, as you said it, my entire life is the post in New Zealand has always been super reliable.
Oh, it was.
You know, well, and I still think, I mean, we live rurally now, and it's different now. I mean, you don't really get letters, you just get the things. But, back in the day and growing up, because across the world, post offices are sort of renowned for being useless.
Except for New Zealand Post.
Except for New Zealand Post.
So there's
very
another
cool to hear the story.
There's another really good story part of this, where that New Zealand Post was recognised internationally as a leader in postal reform. I actually solved a major problem for New Zealand Post and did a presentation to their senior management team. They loved what I presented to them. They gave me a 10 grand bonus on the spot. I resigned the next day. Midlife crisis. No, I wanted to change. My ex-wife and I, we set up a cafe in town here called Vibes Cafe. We built it all within 3 weeks.
Nice.
And opened up in 1996. And it was a huge success. Never made coffee before in my life. Never done food before. We're both new to it. But it was really successful.
What was the food scene like there? Because I remember when I was growing up, and I'm a decade or two earlier, but like the 80s, it was very much the tea shop, or like the
tea rooms.
Tea rooms.
That was called a cafe. Yeah. Well, we were the first to have espresso coffee.
Yeah.
In town, like real espresso coffee. All press who we knew from Auckland. We brought them down and did everything proper. The food that we did was like falafels, sushi. There was a language school here, international language school in town. So we actually employed the students, adult students, to come and work in the cafe making sushi.
Awesome.
So the food was really, really good. But in our first year of we've only been open about 6 months, and I got a phone call from Wellington, from New Zealand Post, saying, "We got a job for you." And I said, "Why would I? I'm self-employed. The business is thriving." And they said, "It's in Portugal."
Oh, yeah.
And I says, "Okay, okay, could be interesting." It was part of a team that was from New Zealand Post, and as I said, New Zealand Post was seen as a leader, so around the world. So New Zealand Post was invited to go into other countries to try and help fix their postal problems.
Yeah.
So I was part of a team, so I did a deal with New Zealand Post to say, "Will you take me out of the cafe? I need to replace me, plus everything else." So it was away about 6 months all up, I think. And when I got back from that project, New Zealand Post said, "We've got more international work for you. Sell your cafe."
Yeah.
So we did.
Cool.
And then I became an international postal consultant. All the post offices in the world, and I don't know where this is, I'm a little bit of a geek, I guess, but all the post offices in the world belong to a special part of the UN, United Nations. It's called the Universal Postal Union. This is how when you send a letter to Australia, you walk into your local post office, you buy a stamp, and whatever it costs today, you put the stamp on your letter, and you give it to New Zealand Post.
Yeah.
New Zealand Post then takes it up to the airport, puts it on a plane, and gives it to Australia Post, who then have to process it and deliver it.
Yeah.
So how does Australia Post get their cut of the money that you paid in New Zealand? Well, that's all administered by the UPU, the Universal Postal Union, which is an arm of the UN. So through the UPU, New Zealand Post was, as I said, seen as a world leader. So we had lots of projects. So I was international business consultant. I actually did 2 missions in Iran by myself. In Tehran in 1998 and 1999 under the United Nations Development Programme. I went to East Timor. I opened up the first 2 post offices in East Timor in 2000 after the terrible tragedies which happened there, the way the people were treated. Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, Montenegro when it was having problems, when it broke away from Serbia, the handover of Macau to China. Italy. I travelled the world.
Yeah.
Either as part of a big group, Philippines. I spent 6 months in the Philippines as part of a New Zealand team that would go into these postal organisations, or I'd do it by myself as just a one-man band for them on the project. But learn a lot about different cultures and everything from that.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So from Thames High to international business consulting, all actually around the world.
Then I injured my back again and had to have my second surgery, which then segues into beach shop. That's how I got into beach shop, because I couldn't travel anymore.
Ah, yeah.
At that stage.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Not injuring the back, obviously, but that's just a very cool story. I had no idea that New Zealand Post was such a world leader.
Oh, they were. They really were.
What was it, do you think? Was it the ethic of the people, the caliber of it, the thinking? Like what was, because I think if you were to ask an average Kiwi, they would never think that New Zealand, like a government organisation, was it even the deregulation that led to it? Or what?
Yeah, deregulation led to it, bringing some new people in, new way of thinking, working smarter. That Kiwi number 8 wire. Yeah. Like, how can we fix this? Used to have, all the letters used to be in bundles with rubber bands around them and then thrown into a canvas bag.
Yeah.
But you couldn't tell what was inside it.
No.
So a containerization project where everything went into mail trays, which I helped design, which then all went into what they call a ULD, a unit load device, like a cage.
Yeah.
So we knew that a mail tray would hold 300 letters.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that there were 100 trays in that roll cage.
Mm-hmm.
So you knew how much mail there was.
Yep.
When there's a whole lot of bags on the floor, you got no idea.
Yeah.
And again, you could colour code things so you knew which was fast post, what were parcels, etc. It was just that whole thinking outside the square, fixing the problem, Kiwi, roll your sleeves up. What we learnt, also, we brought new technology in into the company in terms of computerization and automation.
Mm-hmm.
But you go into a poor country like, say, Uganda, that ain't going to work. They've got cheap labour, but they can't afford all the modernisation and machinery. So it's about working with their people over there to work smarter manually. And so adapting what we did around their culture. So I learned a lot of that.
That's very cool. Well done. All right, so then injured back, super successful beach hop. Who was the winner of the inaugural beach hop? Did you have an awards for it?
Yeah, we did. We had the top 5, and I know Wobbly and Lee Ma had a 1960 Cadillac that was white with magenta flames.
Nice.
That was one of the top 5. Yeah. There was a pink, I think Paul Batty's 37 Ford. There was the Brunton's 48 maybe Ford convertible. They're on a t-shirt somewhere.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's just keep the story rolling. So after the success of the first year, it rolls into the second.
And then but for the second year, so 2002, which was the first beach shop, I don't know, I get these crazy ideas, and I thought, why don't we have a giveaway?
Oh, yeah.
Why don't we build a car? Let's build a hot rod. And again, certification had been in for about 10 years at the stage. So I said, I reckon we could build a car for $5,000.
Okay. Yeah.
So I got some funding for it.
Yeah.
And went to the local school, and Bob Pipe, who's passed away now, he was the head of their technology class at the school. And he was a car guy as well. And I said, hey, Bobby, why don't we build a car? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, through education, I know you can get cheap materials and stuff like that for the steel and everything. But we'll build a hot rod, like a tea bucket, but it was a 27 Roadster.
Yeah.
And we will work with your students to do it. He said, yeah, okay. So we bought an HQ Holden. So it was probably about a 72 HQ Holden sedan that was deregistered, failed a warrant on rust.
Oh, yeah.
It had
Not unusual.
It had a 253 in it, and it ran on LPG or CNG, I think it was, and paid $200 for it.
Nice.
And we ripped the motor, and with the kids.
Yeah.
I went into the first classroom.
Was this Whangamata area school?
Area school. Yeah, the area school here. And I said, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get, this donor car, and we're going to pull it apart, and we're going to work on it each day, and we're going to build a chassis. We're going to get some hot rod suspension from it. We'll use as much as we can from the Holden, the motor and stuff like that, and, it'd be a fun project. And at the end of it, I said to the kids, there's probably about 10 in the class. Any questions? I said, my hand goes up. I said, what's your question? I said, can we do a skid? I said, sure. Well, if you got your license, we won't do it out on the road, but sure, But it was really good watching those kids get into it, and learning how to weld and watching the car come together. And we did it. We did it for $5,000.
Yeah.
We got it certified, and we actually raffled that car.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, you couldn't. It was a 1927 Ford Roadster. It was a fiberglass body, which was new. It was a new chassis and everything. But when we put the raffle ticket into the Department of Internal Affairs to say, we want to do this raffle, you got to have it approved. And they said, no, you can't. They said, why? And they said, we can't raffle second-hand goods. We said, but it's all new. It's like it's never had an owner.
Yeah.
So we actually won that one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, but it was but with a raffle, you've only got 90 days to hold the raffle. And you got 90 days to sell all your tickets.
Yeah.
So we did it, and somebody won a hot rod. They weren't actually there at the draw, but you didn't have to be. But for 2003, I said, we're going to be able to do this smarter. So we turned it into a sales promotion where you buy the program.
Yeah.
Inside that program, there's a chance to win the vehicle. So that year it was a 1952 Plymouth.
Yep.
That we, again, working with the school, we gave it a 1 week makeover, repainted it, lowered it, redid the interior, did everything with some great sponsors. And we made it so that you had to buy a program for $3. And inside that, it became a game of chance that you had to complete the entry form. There had to be an element of skill, so you had to answer a question, and then be at the draw, and we did the draw. A 7-year-old girl won it.
Nice.
So I always picture her dad picking her up out of the crowd.
Yeah.
And they've still got the car today. It's been chopped up a little bit. No, it's a project.
Yeah.
But they've modified it and everything like that.
That's so
and
cool.
then that started it. And since then we've done 47 vehicles over those 25 years, including brand new Harleys.
Yeah.
Some of them we customised, retro caravans. We've been on about 7 or 8 retro caravans. And then all the cars that we've given away through the program prize draw at the festival.
And would those often be to help fund the festival, or were those going back to, because I've seen over the years just huge sums of money being raised by beach hoppers, just gone back into the community, whether it's the school or the,
it's for it goes into the festival.
Yeah.
A festival like this now costs probably close to $500,000 to put on.
Yeah.
It's got to be funded somehow. Sponsors is huge part of that. Entrance from car entrance is a big part of it. Merchandise sales, but also selling the program and the chance to win.
Yeah.
We had Ford on board for a number of years who were really good with the vehicles as well. So we got away from the scratch building cars to buying a car and giving it a makeover.
Yeah.
Maybe change of colour, change of wheels, change of interior, change of engine sometimes. We did build a scratch-built car in 2016, a 34 Coupe, ZZ Hot, which was a beautiful car. But again, the certification process, that was a tough challenge, but we got there in the end. But but that's a huge part. It's a draw card to bring people to the event.
Yeah.
Because, hey, I can win a car for $5, I can win a car. And also for our crew, good bunch of guys here in town that work on the cars but every day. There's always a beer at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Sometimes earlier in the day, wasn't it, Andrew?
Yeah. Morning beers.
No, it was always after lunch, but sometimes with lunch. But we had sponsors that would help us out with the beer and that. But a good bunch of people working together, and then watching that project through to fruition and the change from what we started with to the end, to up on stage giving it away, and a new owner who's really happy.
Yeah, and does that help build out the car scene, or even, because for a small coastal town, Whangamata, there's a lot of, we know in the shed world, there's a lot of people that love to have their cars there, but is that built like the mechanics, the fabricators and that are local here as well? So a bit of that?
Yeah. This town has changed so much. When I moved here in 92, I had my tea bucket, and I probably knew of about 2 other cars in town. Probably pre-COVID, probably 2018 or 19, Andrew and I thought, we wonder how many cars are here. So we put an ad on the paper and on Facebook, probably back then, and said, if you're a property owner or you live here, you're renting here, and you own a special interest vehicle, bring it down to Island View Reserve. We're going to have NZV8 magazine there, take photos, and we'll create a register of the cars that are owned by a property owner or a ratepayer.
Yeah.
568 cars.
Damn. Yeah, that's awesome.
And we were blown away with that, and NZV8 did a great article on that. And, even the street here, God, there's a shed full of cars across the road. Our neighbour Stephen, he's got a couple of cars over here. Andrew's got a 67 Pontiac Le Mans here. Well, there's actually another GTO in the same street. There's only a little street.
Yeah.
A 67 GTO in the same street. So today, I hate to think what the number of cars in this town are today.
Well, I'd heard the stat that there's 1 million classic cars in New Zealand. And, based on those, what I've seen in so many sheds, it wouldn't surprise me now.
Yeah, you used to get to see what's hidden away in stone sheds, you're probably right. We've got some very good friends within the insurance industry, and we could probably ask Larry at Classic Cover what how many cars I've got, but
Yeah.
I know it's hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe billions of dollars worth of vehicles which are insured with them.
Yeah.
But also, we've had one of the buzzes we get, Andrew and I, we go to car shows in America, which are amazing, 13,000 cars at the Street Rod Nationals in Louisville,
Yeah.
blows your mind, 5,000 cars here, etc. But when we have Americans come over here, and they're blown away. They say this is the car capital of the world. Barry Meguiar from Meguiar's Car Polishers,
Yeah.
Meguiar's Car Crazy TV, came here in 2015, and he said New Zealand is the car crazy capital of the world. And we see him in America today, and he says the same thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable, the number of cars in this country.
Yeah, wicked. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just another thing that Kiwis can be proud of, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's one of my things is like, Kiwis, I feel a little bit lately have lost that pride of how cool this country is and what's going on.
I agree. Look, I mean, Jason, we've got fantastic roads. Okay, there might be potholes, we bitch and moan about the potholes, but the scenery.
Yeah.
And around the Coromandel here, you drive up the Thames coast there, and you're in a classic car.
Yeah.
A road trip in a classic car is, we always look forward to it.
Yeah.
You jump in a modern car and it's so nice to drive.
Yeah.
But there's just that element of, jumping in with your partner or a bunch of mates and going on a road trip,
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And everywhere you stop, people come up and go like, I used to have one of these. There's another little story, like I got a 63.5 Falcon Sprint here, which is an American Falcon. So it's very similar to an XM or an XP. But when I got that, there was only two in the country. But you pull up at a gas station, John, whoever, Nigel comes along and goes, oh, I used to have one of these. You go like, really?
Yeah.
And they go, and they start telling me all about it. But again, it's an icebreaker that people come up and start a conversation, and next thing you know, you got something in common, or they're telling you about a mate that's got cars around the corner, or inviting you for a beer somewhere. But the cars just open up so many relationships.
Yeah, it does. It's in terms of, and people talk about it all the time, of creating a community or being part of a community. I think that the car community, it creates it straight away. Yeah, if you're in a classic car or something, there is people will come up straight away. I sort of notice it definitely with Beat Shop, and maybe we did this, is Beat Shop stickers on cars everywhere, and that must, people are so proud, to be part of it. But you also get that, it's an instant sign of people like, oh, you're one of my people,
Exactly.
one of the people. So
I mean, we've seen them, and people will send photos to us. Oh, we saw this in England with a Beat Shop sticker on it, or in America or Australia. I remember going back in the early days, I got a picture of someone going like, here's a picture of a Toyota with a Beat Shop sticker on it. And I went, fantastic. It's free advertising.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It doesn't mean that that's a old vehicle. It means that person's a fan of the festival.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is great. And they bought a sticker for $20.
Yeah.
So it's about that brand and recognizing the brand, which is great.
And so in terms of the vehicle, so if you've always held it, what is the criteria for being able to put a vehicle into
Great question. Okay, so the Beat Shop's always about the 50s and the 60s.
Yeah.
Celebration of the culture, the fashion, the music, the dancing, the cars, the bikes, etc. Wind the clock back to what was it like in the 50s and 60s. Think American Graffiti, think Grease.
Yeah.
Okay, think Happy Days.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's like. So to try and reflect that, our cutoff date was 1972, so pre-1972.
Yeah.
The reason being that a 68 Falcon looks like a 71 Falcon.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then you could buy an XA Falcon in 1971, even though it was a 72, you could buy that model the year before.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this little grey area there. So we say pre-1972, strict to that era, but we may accept a USA vehicle up to 1985.
Okay.
That was on application. So like a Corvette or a Camaro, that was a later one.
Yeah.
Yep. Because of that culture, those models, Mustangs, etc., we may accept. But out of 1,200 cars, that might be 30.
Yeah.
So, wasn't that bad. So, visitors.
Visitors. The benefit of a mobile podcast.
Mark and Carol.
Yeah, let's pause it there.
Okay.
That's cool. All right, that's good. Good little break. We're just talking, Mark wanted to ask this one, so shout out to Mark. How's the beach hop culture changed over the 25 years?
Yeah, I guess the festival has grown up and matured.
Yeah.
And that's good and bad because, the early days were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There was no liquor ban. So like on Friday and Saturday night, you could park your car on the main street and open up your trunk of your car and have a keg of beer or whatever, and you could drink. Obviously not drink driving that, but it was a real party atmosphere.
100%. Yeah.
And it was good. That was up until about 2005, and there was a youth radio station put out a text bomb. Thousands of texts went out to a different culture to what beach hop's about.
Yeah.
And it says Wangamatar's going off. There's burnouts, boobs, and beers.
Yeah.
There were road counters that they put across the state highways.
Yeah.
And a cop was in Waihi, a traffic cop was in Waihi having his lunch. This was at 5 o'clock on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And, he was having his dinner. And he just said, oh, shit. There was just a stream of import cars, I guess.
Yeah.
Not really beach hop kind of people making their way to Whangamata because they heard that there were burnouts and boobs and beers going on. And over 10,000 vehicles hit town.
Whoa.
On top of what was already here.
Yeah.
So, and our traffic management and everything was a little bit different then, and rubbish management in particular. And because people were drinking, they would put their empties in the bins in the main street, which is great. The local council contractors who clear the bins tried to come into the main street, and some idiots were jumping on the back of the rubbish truck. And they said, we can't go, this is too dangerous.
Yeah.
So therefore they were unable to empty the bins. What then happened was people when the bins were full, they put their bottle next to the bin on the ground. So it became like an island of bottles and cans around the bins. Then you get some super duper idiots that walk past and kick the bottles and break the glass. So it got real messy real quick. There was glass all over the road. There was a few bottles had been thrown. It was never verging on riot. It was just untidy.
Yeah.
And, we're all volunteers, and at 10 o'clock at night, I was in town, and I was thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. And the area commander who was over here, I was with him walking through the street, and I said, what are you going to do? And he says, we're going to shut down all the liquor shops so people can't buy alcohol. So I think at 9:30 at night, they shut them down. Which meant that there was only the alcohol that was on the street, basically, that was going to be drunk. And they brought in extra reinforcements. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And he said, come on, we're going to go down to the station and have a cup of tea.
Okay.
And so I went down there and I said, no, I'm done. He said, no, we'll fix this. And I said, how are you going to fix it? He said, we'll put a liquor ban in.
Yep.
We'll hit it real hard to get the message home over the next few years until people understand that at beach hop that culture's changed.
Yeah.
And you can't do what you've always done because it's not good. It's dangerous. So we said, yeah, okay. But that was actually Ross Ardern, Jacinda's dad.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So he was area commander of the Eastern Coromandel for Waikato. So I credit him for saving the festival because I said, why would you want to do this? Why would you want to save the festival? He says, I'll tell you why. He said, there were 70,000 people out there today during the day.
Yeah.
I had 2 staff on. He said, this event is amazing. It's a great culture. The police will work with you to make sure that it carries on. And it did. So as I said just before, I said the event has matured. It's grown up. It's not acceptable now to drink on the streets. You can't do that in a lot of places now.
Yeah.
So, and particularly with cars and everything like that. So, I'm a lot happy with that. Our rubbish management, we learned a lot from that. So we get the bins cleared and on top of things. So, and I think the entrance as well responded to that because they felt safer because the idiots weren't there. And, we're very strict about car criteria that we accept in the, for entries. Providing the music for people to go, we kind of say, hey, look, you've had your fun during the day with your cars. We've done all the cruises, the car shows and that. Sure, come in town and do a couple of laps.
Yeah.
But take your car home, park it up, come back into town. We got free bus on Friday and Saturday. And enjoy all the bands we got on.
Yeah,
and people did that. So they were, the nights on venues are packed now because people are not just about the cars, it's about the culture and the music and the party as well.
Yeah, cool. Did you have to do something similar in terms of burnouts in the streets? I imagine there must be some, because I don't know.
Well, we've always had a no burnout policy, and any entrant who gets caught, they would be banned from the event again.
Yeah.
We've got a great relationship with the police. Work really closely with the police. And, they said if you pull someone up and they've been an idiot, give us their entrant number.
Yeah.
And they will get the call from Noddy that they don't want to get.
Yeah.
And that's basically, look, you've been a dick. And I said, this event only continues with the support of the police.
Yeah.
If people like you carry on like this, you're going to be the one that stops this event.
Yeah.
And you don't want every car person in the country hating you for that. So pull your head in.
Yeah.
And I probably only had to make about a dozen of those calls over the years. So, yeah, and look, we fully support the police. Throw the book at them if someone's get caught doing a skid, impound their cars. The normal traffic rules apply when you're in Whangamata during the event. You can't do that in your home, you can't town, you can't do it here either.
Yeah.
So keep it clean, keep it safe.
Yeah, that's it. And make it more appealing, and then just say it's more safer and appealing for everybody.
And family, and that's something we get, like, I'll be careful with my age. I was born in 1964, so I can remember the music and a bit of what my parents' culture was like. But you've got people who are grandparents now, maybe great-grandparents, who are here with their kids and grandkids saying, hey, this is how we used to behave,
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, like, I used to say to my girls, like, you think you were a rebel?
Yeah.
As the teenagers back in the 50s and 60s, man, they really rebelled. They hotted up their cars, their fashion changed, they were bigger rebels then, culturally, than what they are today.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
like
James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause and everything, So, and that's something that we celebrate, with the 50s and 60s is, and I probably go a little bit deeper with that. And again, just from what I've learned over the years and with talking to people, if you look at, like, say, the 1920s, automobiles probably for nearly 20 years were mass-produced. The cars were getting faster and classier, and, your Studebakers and your Fords and everything, more practical, people could afford them. Music changed. Jazz music came in, and all the associated dancing with that came in. So things were really buzzing, right up through to the Depression in the late 20s. Which really knocked things for a six. Then that was followed by World War II.
Yeah.
So from the late 20s through to the 45, when World War II ended, there wasn't a lot of cultural change over those periods.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until the 50s and 60s when the servicemen came back and cars had changed and they hotted them all up, and that devil's music, rock and roll music, with the early stuff like Bill Haley and Elvis, etc. That changed, fashion changed. Women were wearing bikinis and mini skirts and that through the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
So there was a huge shift in that culture over that era.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking, like, wow, just imagine if the 20s had carried on and we didn't have the Depression and World War II, where would we be today? Would the 50s and 60s have happened earlier than what they actually did? Because the things got put on hold for 15 years or so.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Would it, that link then, because there's a lot of talk on how cool the cars were up until like I'll just check it out there. There's the link between sort of psychedelics, the counterculture of the 60s, and just what was getting designed and changed. And you had all the curves and all the super cool cars, and then sort of like 1971, 72, like there's a switch and it just went to this box culture, and the music changed. You went from the Jimi Hendrixes and all of that to a much harder
and then
rock.
Through to the 80s as well.
And it sort of just carried on, and I don't know whether there's ever been really a change back to it, but there was there was a definitive change between.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And that's the thing, even within the 60s, there were so many different genres of music within the 60s.
Yeah.
Like you just mentioned, the psychedelic, the Beatles, rock and roll, country was taken off. So there was so many things that obviously morphed into the 70s and the 80s with new wave and punk and all that disco.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder, like, gee, that we're talking now, 60 years ago, 50s and 60s, 60, 70 years ago. What are we going to celebrate about 2026 in 60 or 70 years' time? What is there about our culture today that's innovative? Or, we might have an iPhone reunion or something like that, We might have I don't even know what EV cars are. Teslas, aren't they? They're one. We might have a Tesla event. Be very quiet.
Yeah, that's it.
I think the batteries might be dead by then. Sorry to any sponsors who are EV owners, but what is it about today? And that's what makes me a little bit sad. Is what have future generations got left to celebrate about the history and their culture?
Yeah, it will be an interesting one of what it is. It's on one hand, they are far more celebrationary. So we had a St. Patrick's party at home for Jazzy and her friends. There was like 60, 70 kids there. It was a good party, big shed party, and that they all 17, 18-year-olds. But it's interesting, like they're listening to Fleetwood Mac, Billy Joel.
I know.
It's like, so they're really enjoying, and I really like, and I think that is the benefit of like Spotify and YouTube, and that is often the best music has come from, to a degree, the 50s, but particularly the 60s. And, you know, like in terms of that rock and roll and some of the, and it flowed into the 70s, but it's just phenomenal. That era of music, the era of cars, and it will just be one of those truly great eras.
Yeah,
like,
I totally agree. Like Amelia, our oldest daughter, who's nearly 30, she'll kill me for that. She, from a young age, she's playing like Fleetwood Mac. Like when she got into teenagers, she was into Fleetwood Mac. We're going, I've never owned a Fleetwood Mac album in my life. I've never played Fleetwood Mac, but she loves that, and Patti Smith and all this kind of stuff. When I grew up in the late 70s and 80s, it was punk. I was into the alternative New Zealand music scene. Yeah. With the Bats and the Clean and Toy Love and all that kind of the Chills, etc. And also obviously the punk scene. So here I am running a rock and roll festival that I remember my parents listening to, but still it's all about the culture and the passion, and it's all good music. I'm listening to music today that I wasn't listening to back then. Yeah. I wasn't ever a fan of the Eagles or even Pink Floyd and that, but I'm kind of like going, actually that was pretty cool. Yeah, 100%, yeah, the Doors, always like Bob Marley, like, and some of it, you listen to it and it no longer feels like it's aged. It feels, like it could have come out right now. So I think if anything, if they're going to go back to what it was, and I said this, and this is completely off topic of what we're talking about, is what they'll talk about in 2025 and 2026 is, it was the last time I think where people were able to truly tell what exactly was real and what's AI. With AI now, I know. And so that is the crossover point. Like what we're doing, it's cool and it's real. But that is when, in 20 or 30 years, people go, oh, that's when I could still tell what was real. What was not. And so, I don't know how, well, I suppose they'll be all getting together in the park and with cars and going, at least we can all see each other for real, but who knows, it could be hologrammed. Scary. I think we grew up in the best era, to be honest. Yeah, I think there's awesome stuff to look forward to, but it's also pretty full on. Oh, yeah. What's coming. But let's enjoy some more reminiscence. Just hit me with the memorable moments that just come to mind. The cars, the people, the locations, even the merch and the things. Like I think these bar stalls are super cool. With Beach Shop. Yeah. It's been a big learning curve over the years, and always trying to think of something new, because we started with Beach Shop, and then other events have kind of copied us, if you like. The Kaikoura hop and Timaru hop, and there's hops everywhere. And that's no criticism on them. No, because the more events which are celebrating what we do, the better, because people will attend and get bought into the culture. But But we are the original, and we're true. I mean, it's called beach hop because we have a hop, we have a dance.
Yeah.
These other like Howard Cop and that, they don't have a dance at night time, but they still use the word hop.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's okay. So so always been trying to be creative and come up with new events and new ideas and things like that, which I've always really enjoyed doing. Some of the people, we've had some, like I mentioned, Barry Meguiar coming over from America with Car Crazy TV, was pretty special. Gene Winfield, we visit Gene Winfield in Mojave in California. Gene was around since the late 40s, one of the most well-known car builder customizers in America and in the culture. So we visited him with our Kiwis on tours, and actually to bring him over to the event as well, and he was blown away, and he was so good to work with, but unfortunately he passed away last year. So they were pretty special. In terms of the cars that we've given away, they're all a favourite at the time, and we always say we get better and better and better. The Pontiac that we did back in 2008, I think it was, the orange Pontiac Catalina, that thing was, they had a 428 under the bonnet with triple carbs. Man, that thing could boogie.
Yeah.
It was really good. It also did a mean skid at the drags. I took it to the drags. The 1950 Mercury, the blue one we did in 2015. That was a pretty cool car. Had been on stage at Radio City Hall in New York.
Oh,
so it had a story to tell behind it. ZC Hop, the 34 Coupe that we built, was pretty cool. They're just sure which will be they're all favourites.
Yeah.
They're hard to pick. In terms of winning cars, from entrance point of view, having cars come over from Australia was always pretty cool. And, people build a car with the intention of winning beach hop. It's like, wow, really? That's your goal to do that? There's, over 1,200 cars entered, and 5 will make it into the top 5. So the odds of getting into it's got to be something pretty special to get in there. So,
and what would you look for?
Well, it's voted by the public.
Yeah, so it's just so
whatever's got the wow factor.
So whatever's got the wow factor,
Yeah, and the public may have a different view to what I have.
Yep.
I like big engines and shiny paint and chrome, lots of chrome,
cool.
even by the cars that we own. But other people might like the rat rod side of things, or the hydraulic airbag kind of thing. So we've all got different tastes and everything. So, but no, each of the cars that make the finals are just like, wow, next level.
And did it evolve over the years what the public would like and look for? So would it change?
There's always a pattern. Like there's the top 5, and it's usually 2 hot rods and 3, cars like Andrea's, like the 50s, 60s kind of American cars. Yeah, or nice. Could be the odd Holden. We had some Holdens in there as well.
Yeah, nice.
So there's always that kind of pattern. The public seem to warm more to cars like the Pontiac rather than the hot rods. I don't get that because I grew up loving hot rods, but they can identify more with a full body car like this than a coupe or a roadster or a T-bucket, etc.
Yeah, well, I was sort of saying in terms of that sort of sense of belonging and hanging out and cruising, nothing sort of says more fun, and it's just so full of the movies and everything. It's cruising and saying like the Pontiac. Like, how cool would that be?
Get your mates in there.
Partner or the mates, and you're just like...
And sounds, you've got to have sounds as well.
Sounds, 100%.
Or the sound of the motor.
Yeah, but you're just like, such a good time. You just, it'd be such a cool time. What about the locations? Obviously, it's always been based out of Whangamata. When did you start doing like the cruise around the peninsula and hitting up other towns?
Ooh, it'd be going back into the mid-2000s. We did what we called Cruise the Loop.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, we went out to Onimana. It was a one-day festival.
Yeah.
Then we made it a 2-day festival. Then we made it a 3-day festival. And Friday, we went out to Onimana Beach. Probably in about 2004, maybe, and 5. So we grew it. We added new towns. We went to Waihi on the Wednesday, and then Thursday. But we used to do what we call Cruise the Loop, which was from here over to Thames, up the Thames coast. to Coromandel town and have lunch, then Whitianga and back down through to Whangamata. And they were good. We'd have 300 or 400 cars on those. Traffic management became a real issue because anything which impacts normal traffic flow needs a traffic management plan. So therefore the costs are going through the roof. We got around it. We used to have the police, again, are so fantastic, but they'd send down two cops on motorbikes from Auckland.
Oh, nice.
Was it Grant and Mark, I think it was, were their names. And they'd meet us at Kopu.
Yeah.
And they were absolutely fantastic. I mean, they, because they had the lights and sirens, so they'd help us get through Thames. They were just so happy. They were so happy to get out of Auckland. And riding down the Thames coast on their police bikes and everything. They were so good. And they were so good to us as well. I remember at Coromandel there, we were about ready to depart, and Jimmy Hannum, he's another guy who's passed away just recently, and he had a Model A Roadster pickup, and it had what they call a Hemi engine in it, and he had open pipes on it, so it was loud. And his goal was to drive the whole Coromandel with open pipes, It was really good. So we're sitting there, I was talking to Grant and Mark, the two cops on their bikes, and Jimmy come down a one-way street the wrong way, like, he's a married fella, but he was like pale as anything. And they said to me, "What's his problem?" I said, "Oh, he's worried about like his noise, and you guys give him a ticket." And they said, "Oh, we can't hear him. We can't hear anything, And then they said, "Oh, how fast do you want to go?" And I said, "Oh, 100 k's is the speed limit." This is Grant and Mark on the bikes. They said, "Try and keep up." So we were doing like 120, chasing the cops. They were great days. It was good days doing that. But then, we went to Tairua, we went to Pawanui on the Thursday, we went to Whitianga. Again, traffic management just got harder and harder and harder. Yeah. So Pawanui now, we took it there. We went back to Pawanui last year, and it went really, really well parking on the
on the airstrip.
On the airstrip there, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing. It's like, I think, as you said earlier, all the cars, the amount of people that have cars in Whangamata now, but even just the value of Whangamata and how desirable it is because of the car culture for people to move.
Pushed properties up.
It's pushed the property prices up.
If we got a commission from every property sale in this town, Andrea and I would be quite rich, but unfortunately we didn't. So
the amount of people that have just come in. And then how did the merchandise evolve? Were these just custom for you, the Barlinas, or has it always just been sort of T-shirts and hats for the beach shop?
Yep, T-shirts obviously were the big one, T-shirts and hats and posters, and then it evolved. The bar stalls were actually done by another company and because it's a trademark, we would give them the license to make a certain number of them.
Yeah, cool.
We do get the license out so people can make. Yeah. We have had cases where companies like the Warehouse have produced their own beach shop shirts and were selling them, and we had to go in with our patent attorney and say, breach of trademark, you can't do that, get rid of them. So they sent them to the islands. But just really, really strongly protecting the brand, and also thinking of new things that we could sell. Yeah. To try and generate more revenue, and people like collecting things. Yeah,
100%.
Number plates, etc.
Yeah, people love memorabilia. Any other events that it spiked off that you've done? So was this the first? You're part of the hot rod. You got involved in beach hop, but Yeah. Well, we love doing events and everything. So we started one called the Dust Up, probably back in 2009, and there's a fantastic dirt track in the hills above Waihi Beach on a farm run by the Waihi Beach Dirt Track Club. And I was watching the cycling. They've been watching it for years, like at the Olympics, and they have this race where they start opposite each other on a track, two cyclists, and they chase each other. And I thought, why can't we do that with cars? So, obviously traditional hot rods and nostalgia hot rods, etc. Nothing like fancy like Andrea's car, even though she'd probably like to get out there and have a spin. But to do that, and people thought it was crazy. Put it out there, and people entered for it. So we had about 40 cars, hired the track with the Dirt Track Club. The New Zealand Hot Rod Association thought it was dangerous, and they actually had a press release ready to go about how they disassociate it in the event of a crash.
But, you know, again, using that common sense approach, you're on a dirt track, they've got to have a warrant, and we do a scrutineering. They've got a helmet, they've got a neck brace.
Yeah.
You know, the fastest that they probably get up to, you've got a dirt bank at either end, and it's got concrete walls down the side on an oval track. Probably the fastest they're going to get to is maybe 50, 60 kilometres an hour.
Oh, good. Yeah.
They drive on the open road at 100 kilometres an hour, and they had another car, and that's a 200 kilometre smash.
Yeah.
So, you know, common sense said it was a pretty safe thing to do. And yeah, we had a few scuffs of the wall every now and then, but so we did that for 5 years. Again, we were the first to do it, and next thing, other people have copied it, and there were other events that popped up that were doing the same thing. But we noticed that interest started to wane off because it was too many similar events. 2021, we were in COVID, and Andrew had a pretty major health scare for a while, and we were sitting there talking about what we could do, and we said, well, why don't we bring back Dust Up?
Yeah.
So we put it back, and we went back to the Dirt Track Club and everything, and said, we'll do it. Yeah, we'll just do it again. And we changed a few things. We bought in the vintage Speedway and the historic stock cars, and it went off. Yeah. And we said, okay, well, let's just do it for 2 years and then have a break, and then do it another 2 years and have a break, just so it's not too monotonous. Yeah. So, yeah, we did that. We brought that back, and I think we did about 4 of them, and it was huge, great event. We unfortunately we lost the venue, outgrew, and the farmer who owns the property got a little bit shitty about it, but that's his call, his loss. So we're working with somewhere else in the Waikato to hopefully bring it back next season.
Nice.
Same format. We also do the world's first car and bike show every year. So it's something we've done for about 15 years or so. So we do that independently. So we do it at the Whangamata Club. We get about 150 to 200 cars. And it's the very first car and bike show anywhere in the world because of, you know, the international date line and where we are geographically, that we're having a car show here while it's the 31st of December and last year and other places. So, and that's a fun day. We do that to kind of kick things off for summer and raise some funny money for some of the local emergency services or community groups. And we have got some plans to do some other events now that I'm free from Beach Shop. We had an event planned for 2022, Andrew and I, called the Hoot Nanny. Yep. It was a country rock festival. And again, this is in COVID times, at the Thames Racecourse. It's like Beach Shop, but take away rock and roll music and put in country rock. Yeah. Now, country rock isn't just country and western type music, even though that was an element. Country rock is right through to the Beatles and John Cougar and that modern kind of country stuff, which is growing
massively.
With our tours, you know, we go to Nashville quite often and we see these amazing young bands just playing their hearts out. We think, like, how cool would it be good to bring one of them out to New Zealand and give them a big break? Yeah. So we were all set. Resource consent, venue, ticket sales. We had about 1,000 motorhomes that were booked to camp there. All the musicians were all booked and everything. And then it was scheduled for the end of February in 2022. 23rd of January, New Zealand went into red traffic light. Remember, we had these traffic light things? So we had to cancel, which was heartbreaking because it was a 3-year resource consent. Everybody got refunded within a week. So all the money went into a trust account. We were able to refund that, so no ticket holders missed out. But it hit us hard. Yeah. And it was like, it just showed the risk of it. But now that we're out of COVID fear, touch wood, well and truly, I don't think that will happen again. No. We will look at bringing that, maybe some changes, plus some other new events that Andrew and I have talked about. And once we get this place all finished and our cars finished, we got some time to put into creating another event.
Man, sounds awesome. It's such a it's a service being able to just offer these events. Yeah, because it's such a huge risk that you sort of take to do it, but the enjoyment that people have from an event is just phenomenal.
Absolutely, and we try and put on the best. We try and do something unique. We don't want to copy just another event. We want to do our own spin on it, and we want to put on the best show that we can.
Yeah.
Obviously, we need to make money and cover the bills.
100%.
Yeah, that's what we're in it for. But, to give people the pleasure, and we want them to walk away going, hey, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Let's come back next year.
Yeah, that's cool. When did you first do the Kiwis on tour? Like, when did that opportunity come up, or how did that come about?
The very first tour I did was actually to an event called the Winter Sun, which was in Australia. So it was like a beach shop, a rock and roll festival over there in Coolangatta, and worked with a local travel agent. I said, hey, I'm going to take a group over to it.
Yeah.
So I worked with them, did the accommodation, worked with them to do the accommodation, the airfares and the transport. And it was great.
Yeah.
So I did that for 2 years. And then she approached me and said, how would you feel about, I just started heading to America at this stage. A good friend who we met through Beach Hop, who's also been an amazing supporter of us with this building. He owns a big construction company, so his buying power for things like chipboard and everything is phenomenal. So cheers to Ron. He rang me up one night and said, hey Nod, would you come to America and help me buy my dream car? And I said, what is it? This is 2007.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, I always wanted a K-code fastback Mustang and a GT convertible. So I said, well, I can't really afford to go over there or anything. He said, no, I'm paying and I'm only going business class. So he's a busy businessman. Yeah. So the deal was I'd find the cars, do the deed with him to buy the cars, and then he'd fly back to New Zealand and I'd get the cars ready for shipping. So we went up together and got to know each other really well. Up there for a couple of weeks together. Found the two cars, which one has gone on to win the LZ concourse a couple of years ago. Nice. And the other one's placed really well there as well. And he came back to New Zealand, I stayed on and got the cars back. So and while I was there, I got to go to Bonneville to Speed Week. Went to Hot August Nights with Ron as well. Which kind of like, it had always been a dream to get to America. I never thought I'd ever get there. So it was a huge opportunity, and it wasn't that hard, what I found. So I went back in 2008, and then a couple of years later, I went over every year actually for a bit of a holiday and go to car stuff. And then the travel agent who I'd worked with said, hey, how would you feel about leading a tour of Route 66?
Yep.
And I said, what? In a bus? And she said, yeah. I said, nah, bugger that. I said, we're car people. We want to drive it. We want to earn our stripes. Yeah. And she said, how can you do that? I said, the dream would be a Mustang convertible. And, here's a route of places that I'd seen in my previous visits to the States. So she put it out there, and it sold out. 40 people sold out within 6 weeks, I think it was. Yeah. And went up and did it, and it was successful. The travel agency made a lot of money. She didn't. Yeah. She was just an employee there. So she says, hey, I'm a bit pissed off with them. If I get on my own, can I do your business? Yeah. I said, sure, but we'll work together. Yeah. And so she did, and we did the second tour in 2011. And then it's just grown from there. And then thankfully Andrea came into my life, and because I've done a lot of tours by myself, but having her with me has made it a partnership, and the two of us, and she can cater to needs as well, and makes life a lot easier with them. And then in 2018, Kylie rang up and says, I'm going to retire. It's all yours. Okay. So she used to do all the bookings of the hotels and the rental cars and everything like that. So Andrea and I had to learn very quickly. And we wanted to make changes anyway, so we changed hotels and everything. Yeah, nice. So 2019 we did the first tours. Yeah. We do up to 3 or 4 tours a year as Kiwis on tour, New Zealand Limited, and it was going great. And of course then COVID came. 2020, 21, 22 we couldn't travel. So we came back in 2023, and we could sell out like 2028. We could sell out like that.
Yeah, because but so just, what is the tour like? So you guys all fly in together? Where do you arrive? LA? Where does it, how does it all happen? And
I think we've got about 5 different tours across America now.
Yeah, so 5 different ones.
Different ones, yeah. And they're all self-drive tours.
Yeah.
Okay, so people we're land-based only, so it doesn't include your flights,
Yeah.
because what we found is that you could shop around and get a better deal when,
Yeah.
rather than us lock you in for $2.5 or $2,000, you can get a deal for $1,400.
Yeah.
So we're land-based, so when you arrive in the States, whether it be Miami or in LA, because we have a tour on the East Coast as well, from there we look after you.
Yeah.
Some tours, our most popular is Route 66, which is a 28-day road trip.
Yeah.
We take a northern loop up through Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, up to Mount Rushmore, across to Chicago, and then we follow Route 66 back. That's 28 days. Or out of Cars and Blues in Miami, that's 34 days. Big Texans, 35.
So
all different, and they all cover different parts of America, have a different vibe. And some people have done every tour.
Wow. And so will you have stuff organised every day? And so by self-drive, it just means you'll start in one hotel in the morning and then you've just got a certain amount of time to cruise.
So we start off with a daily briefing.
Yeah.
We prepare a run sheet, which we update at the latest. We update every night, because we check the road conditions, because we don't want to send them down a road which might be closed, so we check them the night before. We meet at breakfast and we have either a group briefing or it could be just per couple. We go around the tables and go through the plan for the day. We own the GPSs, so for 66 we got it pre-programmed, but we also own the phones that we get, American phones. So we say, look, hey, we're going to suggest we're going to hit the road at 8:30 or 9 today.
Yep.
You can leave whenever you want to, but these are the things that you want to see along the way if you want to. So it's self-drive. You do it at your own pace. It's not a race.
Yeah.
But you some things we do as a group, where we say, hey, we want to be at this place at 2 p.m. or 1 p.m. because we've got a real treat for you, which might be a private car collection, or you might be meeting one of the characters of Route 66, one of the most well-known people. Then we get to the hotel, normally between 4 and 5 or 6. Straight to the pool, because it's summertime. We give everyone a little ice-cold chili bin as part of their tour pack. A couple of beers at the pool, and then we'll say, hey, we're going to meet in the lobby at 6:30. We're going to go and have Mexican or steak or Chinese or whatever for dinner. Join us if you want to.
Yeah.
Then we wake up and do it again the next day.
Yeah.
So some places we have 2 and 3 night stays. So we cover a lot of miles, but we see a lot of America. Yeah. And each tour is so different. But we've also branched into Canada.
Oh, really?
So last year we did 2 tours in Canada. Went to the Calgary Stampede, which was amazing. Andrew and I actually went up in 2019 and we did a recce.
Yeah.
And we were going to do this tour in 2022, but COVID killed it.
Yeah.
We couldn't do it. So we did 2 tours in 2025 in Canada. One was called the Stampede, because we went to the Calgary Stampede, which is just amazing. So 3-week road trip around through British Columbia and Alberta, through the Rockies. Then there was a 7-day cruise up the Inside Passage to Alaska, and then a 5-day overland experience in Alaska as well. Then we did the same tour, but it was called the Northern Lights, where we actually saw the Northern Lights, which is pretty cool. So we're going back again next year, and we've created a new tour of the East Coast of Canada, which is sold out.
Yeah.
We put that out there about 4 weeks ago. It's sold out straight away, which is great. And we're doing the Stampede tour next year as well. We're going back into that one.
Can you just describe the Stampede?
The Calgary Stampede. Okay, it's the greatest outdoor show on earth, they say. So it's in downtown Calgary at the Calgary Showgrounds.
Yeah.
They get over 1 million visitors over the 10-day period.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like an AMP show or Easter show on steroids.
Yeah.
So lots of sideshow attractions and crazy rides and all that stuff, but with a Western theme.
Oh, yeah.
They have parades through town with cowboys on horses and Native Americans on horses as well. They're a big part of it today. Music. They have some pretty big concerts there with some pretty well-known bands. There's a rodeo. There's like an AMP show where they've got cows and sheep and everything inside the big halls.
Yeah.
Beautiful animals.
Yeah.
But their nighttime show is incredible. It's an outdoor show. They have the chuck wagon racing, which it's like so it's like a covered wagon.
Yeah.
But
the Western way.
Yeah. And 4 horses. I think it's 4 horses.
Yeah.
a driver, and I guess an assistant. And when Andrew and I first went there, we're going like, what's going on? Because there's like 4 teams, and they got some barrels, and they go around these barrels in like a figure 8, and then bang, they're off, they do a lap of the track. It was just like, well, what the hell's going on? So we want you to understand how it works, but it's full on. It's like stock. Unfortunately, they do have a few accidents, and thankfully last year I don't think any horses were put down, but just incredible.
Yeah.
So you've got this going on for about 2 hours in the early evening. Then all of a sudden this stage just appears in front of you. There's a big kick-ass tractor gets pulled in front of you, the stage, which all kind of folds out and lights up and everything like this. You're going like, how did that get there?
Yeah. And
it's just seamless. And there's this full-on stage show for about 2 or 3 hours, where they've got, last year they had motorbike, like Crusty Demons doing motorbike stunts through flames and fire dancers and nowadays drones at nights all lit up with making pictures and stuff. Incredible show, absolutely incredible show. So that's what the Calgary Stampede's all about. So our tour includes a full day and night at the Stampede. So we're branching, doing the east coast of Canada next year. So we're going to go to the world's the lobster capital of the world, because it's on the east coast. We're going to the scallop capital of the world. There's a lot of seafood up there. We're going to see the world's biggest axe, the world's biggest fiddle, the world's longest covered bridge, all over in that Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Ontario, Quebec part of Canada, which is really exciting. We're actually, between tours this year, we're going to go up and do a recce. Yeah. We've done all the planning for it. But Andrew and I are going to go up there and do a 3-week recce around to find all those little hidden treasures. Yeah. We know that there are car collections, and museums, so that's important that we'll find those. The best restaurants to go to and check the hotels and stuff like that. Yeah. And then at the end of last year, 2025 we did 4 tours. We went down to Mexico and onto the Cancun side, which is on the Caribbean side. Yeah. And we went out to Cozumel, which is an island off the mainland of Mexico. And Andrew said, why don't we do tours here? Yeah. At first I was going like, I don't know, there's no car culture on there. There wasn't that much, and not thinking outside the square and, kind of setting my ways with things. And then we got talking and thinking about it, and she's right. Yeah. Said, like, we could do this, and we don't have to drive because everything's so close. Mm-hmm. So we can hop from Cozumel to Playa del Carmen, stay at a beach resort at each one, and then we go up to Cancun, hop up to Cancun. Then we can hop over to Jamaica. Then we can hop up, we were going to go to Cuba, but that's a bit dicey, up to the Bahamas. We can hop around to all these beaches. Let's call it the beach hopper. Yeah. So it was born. So again, we put it out there and we're about 80% sold out already. And it's not a driving tour. So there's a cruise ship involved, but also we're going to transport. We're going to fly from island to island and everything like that. So pretty exciting. Yeah. I love creating new things like events and tours.
Yeah, it's so cool. And who would have thought the post office? Would have trained it up for this sort of cool stuff. Yeah. That's so cool. I just wanted to go back though in the sort of Route 66. What are the sort of hidden treasures or some of the cool things that you've seen and got to do along that one?
Well, the tour is actually in 2 parts. One is to get to Chicago. Yeah. So, we go to Vegas and we do all the things up there and the Hoover Dam, and we go to the Shelby World Headquarters. Then we make our way up to Wendover. Now, Wendover is where the Vulnerable Salt Flats are, where they have Speed Week up there in August every year, where Burt Munro, everyone knows about Burt Munro.
Yeah, the world
race up there. He's Indian. Yeah, I know he's an absolute legend up there. So we got there on this tour. We don't go there for the racing because we're there earlier. But that's the Holy Grail. That's the fastest place on earth to go there and get your picture taken with a sign. Or sometimes we do actually park the cars on the salt and get our photos taken with them. Up to Mount Rushmore. We have a beer and pizza cruise on the upper Mississippi River out of a place called La Crosse in Wisconsin. So they're all treasures, and we've got some car collections along the way. And then on Route 66, I guess there's a number of different elements. One is the small town America. This was the main street of America. Yeah. So it was the first paved highway from Chicago to LA. Opened up in 1926, so it's the 100th anniversary this year. Wow. So it really improved transport around America through that, particularly through the wars as well.
Yeah.
And through the 50s and 60s when the theme parks opened up. It was easy to get to Disneyland and to Knott's Berry Farm, etc. From the east along Route 66. So it went through all the little towns. So it was the main street of America. As the towns grew, the route changed. So there's different, what they call it, different alignments of the road. And then the interstate system came in because it was getting too busy and too dangerous. So there needed to be a way you can get from A to B without having to stop except for gas.
Yeah.
So that's when the interstate system came in. So a lot of these towns died.
Yeah.
So if you've seen the kids' movie called Cars, a Disney Pixar movie,
Only about 50 to 60 times, maybe more. That
Great.
was the peak movie when
great
my kids were
movie.
young. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. Now, look, Radiator Springs is a fictional town, but it's kind of made up with all the different things that you see on Route 66. So you'll see, replicas of the vehicles, but say in Galena, Kansas, the actual original Tomato is there. Doesn't look like Tomato. It was a tow truck. That's where the creators of the movie Cars saw those vehicles and wrote them into the story. They met some of the characters, the people who are on the road, the real people, and like say Harley Russell and Eric, Oklahoma, which is the redneck capital of the world.
Yeah.
So he's one of the characters. Flo, who runs Flo's Diner in the movie, she's based on a woman called Fran, who run a cafe called the Midpoint Cafe, which is halfway across Route 66 in Texas. So a lot of those people we get to meet.
Yeah, working.
So they're real characters. Unfortunately, a lot of them are passing away. Well, the biggest one is Angel in Seligman, Arizona. And his story is amazing. He spent his whole life on Route 66. He's 99 years old this year. His father owned a barber shop and a pool hall. Angel got into the family business. So he's probably America's most famous barber. And he sat there for when the interstate went in, which bypassed Seligman. He sat there for 9 years. He used to have 9,000 cars go past a day.
Yeah.
You're lucky if he got 90 cars go past.
Wow.
So he sat there and he's for 9 years, 10 years, and said, "We've got to do something about this." So he called a meeting at the Copper Cart Cafe, and they formed the Route 66 Preservation Society for Seligman, Arizona, and they petitioned to get it declared as a historic byway, which meant that they couldn't rip up any more of the road, and they had to preserve what was left and maintain it. So he's the angel.
Yeah.
Angel is the angel of Route 66, and we wouldn't be doing what we're doing today if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
Really was. So he's a character. His family run the gift shop now. The barber shop is a gift shop.
Oh, yeah, cool.
They've been a bit careful now because of his age that, they don't want him to get sick or anything. So occasionally he will pop in and meet tour groups. So we're fortunate that we've met him a number of times. He was doing shaves with a cutthroat razor up until about 5 years ago. If you trust a 95-year-old with a razor around his throat. But he was so funny. He was so good. A real inspiration.
Yeah.
So there's that side of it, meeting those characters. We know lots of... we are the most well-known Kiwis on Route 66. Everybody knows Noddy and Andrea. Yeah. Private car collections that we go to that other people wouldn't even know they're there. Yeah. So we visit those as well.
Yeah, cool.
And the Americans love... we're Kiwis and Aussies. We get on really well. Mainly Kiwis, but we do allow a few Australians to join us. Yeah. But no, they're good. They're a good bunch. We don't take other cultures because it's about us celebrating us Kiwis and Aussies on a road trip. And the Americans love us. They really do. Yeah. They love us. They're so easy to work with.
Yeah. That's awesome. I want to come.
Do it.
Yeah. It's going to be. It's is there anything else that you're looking forward to or we want to talk about? Yeah, obviously beach hop in a couple of weeks, but is there anything else that we want to mention and shout out whilst we're here?
Oh, I'm just really excited about our, not having to do beach hop this year. Being in the background, just making sure as much as I can or as much as they want me to be involved, making sure that things go smoothly. And we don't want to see it fall over. No. And we had agreed that they wouldn't change anything the first year, anything major. And once they've done it for a year by themselves, then they can they can do whatever they want. It is for charity, it is for the local economy, and for charity as well. So hopefully they'll raise some good money. With us, so it's been freedom to be able to work on our stuff.
Yeah.
Getting our stuff done, as Andrew would say. We've got time to put into our stuff, so getting the building finished. Cars, we've sold 2 trucks.
Yeah.
We had a lot more cars than this, but we've sold 2, so we're getting down to, we're just getting up with 3.
Yeah.
The Fairlane's going to get sold, and just have the Pontiac and the Falcon and my original T-Bucket, and just live life together and start to enjoy other events or go away for a holiday somewhere and go camping and fishing and just normal. 25 years was fantastic and wouldn't be here without it, but it certainly took up a lot of a life as well.
Yeah, no, oh, that's cool. You've impacted a lot. And what was the inspiration for this building that we're sitting inside? It's so cool now, but it's obviously I've been a part of the journey for a while. But what?
Yeah, Andrew and I are retreads. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're not used to it.
Yeah.
So we've come from different relationships. We've known each other for 16 years, but we're coming up to our 10th kind of anniversary, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
Where the timing was right, where we were able to get together. We got 3 daughters. Andrew's daughters in between my 2, and they're fantastic.
Yeah.
And so when we first got together, I was living in a I guess it was an illegally modified, fairly new industrial building, a couple of blocks over. And it worked for me because I was going away overseas on the tours. I could park all my stuff there, all my valuable stuff, all my collection of stuff, memorabilia, and then go overseas. And then Andrew and I got together, and we did a couple of years there. And we heard about a property over here on Model Place that was going to go on the market. It was an industrial site, and it had a workshop that had been, again, illegally converted into a dwelling. We knew that when we bought it. So the initial plan was to build a big shed on the back of it. And we went through the process for that. We had some advice on everything, but unfortunately it wasn't the best advice at the time. And we had a resource consent to build a shed on the back. It got through the council point and part of it, and they threw it out and said, no, that's a residential shed. There's no residence on your property because it's industrial. So the option was to bring the workshop that we were living in up to the building code. And I should have listened to Andrew at the start. The better option was to bowl it and start again. Which is, we looked at the market. We knew what we wanted, an apartment with a workshop for all our treasures that can be used as a business as well. And we sat down and we kind of drew what we wanted, and we put it out there and went to a number of different, as you do, shed companies. But to be honest, we were impressed with you. You actually got back to us. Some of them didn't even get back to us. Some of them were too hard to deal with or too far away, but Waikato Sheds, we liked the product. We liked what we saw, and you've been great to work with. Building has been, it's my first time I've ever built. I think Andrew's had a building project before. It's a challenge, it's like building a car, but on a bigger scale. The challenges, I learned a hell of a lot. Would I build again? Probably not. But we love what we've designed, and this is all our design, what we wanted. And we love it, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel that it will be finished. And all the way through, from Kyron and Jackson that were here putting up the main structure, everything, they were great to work with. Had a lot of help along the way with friends and everything who have been able to help out with products and everything. The electrician's a hot rod friend.
Cool.
Who's great. A1 Concrete have been great with all the concrete work that they've been doing, great to work with. So, that's the inspiration. It's probably, people say the man cave, but it's not. This is, Andrew's a bigger part of this is anything, but, we're both empty nesters. It's only 1 bedroom. We've got a big area up there, which is also an office for the view. Downstairs living area, and then we got this that will, once we clear out some of the stuff from the building, part of the project, and get rid of some other stuff that we don't need, we'll have a lot more room in here and have a bit of a games room and area and lots of memorabilia to put up. We put plywood up on all the walls. About 60 sheets of ply that we just finished doing. So all the, we've got every beach shop poster and T-shirt and banners, and Andrea's collected hundreds of number plates from America.
Yeah, awesome.
Even went out to the dump yesterday. She found one at the dump. She goes, "Oh, it wasn't an American, it was a New Zealand one. It was up a trailer, so we'll have that."
Yeah.
So we'll plaster the walls with number plates. Andrea's got some designs and ideas on how she wants to put them up, but we can screw them up. Lots of stuff we've collected. Lots of stuff was stolen from bars in America. But we visited like Gas Monkey Garage, Richard Rawlins from the TV show Fast and Loud. That they give us stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of bars we go to, you're talking to the barman and go, "Oh, that's a nice Fireball sign."
Yeah.
"Oh, that's a nice bar coaster thing." Like,
Yeah,
it's going back to a shed in New Zealand, okay? Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, it is the dream of so many people.
It is. Do it.
I think, the empty nesters particularly, we do a lot. Yeah, you see it for people, either families try to build one, or they build one, for the rooms, and then big rooms, and it's pretty cool because the guys or girls will, workshops or storage.
Yeah.
But so many people, whether it's for the caravan, the classic cars, or the boat, and just like a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom sort of apartment style. Yeah,
and
less house to look after, and then more room for the toys, and then be able to just go away and travel.
Yeah, and it's perfect for, say, like a lifestyle block.
Yeah.
Where you're rural. We were fortunate enough that this industrial site came up. So, this is a light industrial, so that you can actually run a business out of here, factory of some sort. So we were just so lucky that we could do this, which means we're close to town. Yeah. We're only a couple of blocks from the main street, but we're lucky that we can do this, and we get a lot of comments on it. Each season we come back home, like we're back for 6 months, so we try and get as much done as we can.
Yep.
Before we go away, I hope to have the balustrade up on the deck, and then kitchen and wardrobe and some stairs out the back here, and we're pretty much getting done.
Yeah, it's awesome
Enjoy
to see
it.
the journey. It is like, as we said, there's a very similarity to classic cars or doing up a project car and then the project sheds and that final finishing.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, like you see obviously the architect's drawings of it and everything, but seeing it in real life, every time, I know about Andrew, every time I drive down the street and I see it now with the fence up as well, it's like, wow, I feel really proud. We've worked really hard for this. Yeah. Really hard.
100%. Yeah. Andrew and yourself done awesome. Yeah, and
we're not rich by any means. No. It's been through saving, making sacrifices, and working bloody hard to be able to build.
Oh, it's 100%. It's a grand design on a much more of a shoestring, a budget, which is I love being a part of it as well, because it's one thing to go and spend millions of dollars. There's another to going, okay, how do we do this?
And make it look cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's still so cool. No, man, it's been awesome. It's been a great story. There's so much of the early stuff, and I love those sort of links back of early life and the career, and how beneficial that's turned around and been now, and that sort of training. So, and all the service you've done to the community. So, thanks for the service. Thanks for running it. You must have, you've made probably hundreds of thousands of people happy, but and you've really added to the Kiwi culture. I think beach hop in New Zealand is so iconic and in the North Island, but just having a good time, being proud of the vehicles, being proud of our, the culture is just an awesome thing that you've done, and it's great Kiwi. Great thing.
It's been a blast. Major highlights. We won the New Zealand Event of the Year in 2017. Up against the big events, to win that and at Sky City and be presented, that was pretty huge. And then on a personal, getting being made a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit at the Queen's birthday. Announcements back in 2021, I think it was, or 2022. And getting my gong and my warrant and everything like that was, New Zealander of the Year. As well, and local hero. So having those things, you don't do it for those reasons. No. But it's just nice to be recognised, and at the end of it, and I couldn't do it without Andrea, and then be the support of friends and all the crew that work behind the beach. I've got to mention them, and they've been amazing. And then the community for supporting, and families. So
shout out to them all. Especially all the volunteers. And that's it. The volunteers in New Zealand have just, that's what makes the community. It makes the events. You just can't have it. And you think,
well, you couldn't afford to pay them.
No, you can't afford to pay them, and they can be supervising anything from making sure the rubbish is going to the bin, and things are going the right way, and they're sacrificing their time to enable other people.
It's nice to be on that side of things.
Yeah.
But we were going to be on the other side of it now because we're not part of the crew.
You'll be able to walk around and enjoy it.
Haven't even got a cruise shirt this year.
Awesome.
Okay, buddy. Thank you.
Cheers, Noddy.
Thanks for everything.
Awesome.